All right, you guys, good morning. It's Friday morning. It's 9:15 in the morning, and you guys are floating away down a creek somewhere. I'm at the high school. And what I wanted to do is do the leakage test for you so we didn't fall behind. We're ready to go Monday morning. So let me show you what I did. I'll grab the camera here and show you what I did yesterday after school. I went ahead and installed the new timing belt you can see here. This is the new water pump. There's a new idler pulley, and here's the new tensioner pulley. And I've got the marks lined up. You can see this mark right here. If I hold the camera steady, that's that cam mark. And then there's this mark here, right there. There's a mark right there. It's a little tough to see. Let me see if it'll focus there. Anyways, a little hard to see the mark there, but oh, there it goes. And then there's a mark down on the crank, and you can just barely see that one. It's that dot down in there, and then there's a dot on the gear. And I'm reminding you that here's the timing belt that was all shredded, that was running over this pulley and got it all black and blue from heat. See the black and blue there? Hopefully you can see that. That's from heat. Totally melted this one. This one's all black and blue. Totally melted this one. So I'm back together, and what was interesting is when I went and aligned up the timing belt, the crank and the cams were basically all lined up. They hadn't been changed much from their position, which is a good sign because that may mean that they never actually got out of time and the valve hit a piston. So what I'm going to do is take the leakage tester, and here's our leakage tester here. It's this guy here, and remember what we do, we put compressed air in here. We crank this thing up to 100 psi and see what percent is leaking. So I went to ProDemand, and here on the driver's side is 1357. The passenger side is 2468. So we're on number one top dead center, so we're on one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and screw in the hose. The only difference between a leakage hose and a compression tester hose, the leakage tester hose doesn't have a Schrader valve in there. Here's a compression tester hose, and you can see the Schrader valves in there. Leakage test does not. So I'm going to go ahead and put my safety glasses on and come down over here. I'm going to move the camera and see if I can get you a little bit better view of things. Let's see if that's better. I don't know if that's that better. You can't really see what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's do it like this. How is that? That's pretty good. So you can see me threading this down into here. I could probably stand to get a little more light so you could see a little better. Okay, I just need to go until it squeezes on that O-ring that's on the end of that. I'm going to go ahead and put this guy down here, and then I'll bring the camera back up here so you can see when I put the compressed air in. Give me one sec here. All right, so I've got my air here, and I'm going to go ahead and put the air into here. While I paused, I put a fender cover on the fender. This one's, okay, this has already got pressure to it, which it's not supposed to have. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Let me see. Okay, hang on one sec here. Let me figure out what's going on here. Let me pause. Pause this guy, one sec. Okay, so here we go. The other leakage tester wasn't backing down for whatever reason. This one's functioning correctly where it's loose right now. And you can see that this is at 0. So now I'm going to crank this up, and I'm going to go all the way to 100 psi. And hopefully the crank doesn't spin over on me. Hopefully it doesn't. And I'm going all the way up to 100 psi. I'll pause so you can see it. So I'm at 100 psi, and I'm way down here at like 4% leakage. So number one cylinder is amazing. It's at 4%. So let me reset up the next cylinder. Okay, so here we go. So the next cylinder is going to be cylinder 8 over here. And cylinder 8 is the back cylinder over here on the passenger side. And I'll grab the light, the camera, and bring it over here. And what I wanted you to know is that the firing order is 18436572. And the mark here on the cam, which was up here at number 1, this is an 8-cylinder, so 2 revolutions of the crank is 720 degrees. Divided by 8 is every 90 degrees the cylinder fires. So on the cam, it's every 45 degrees because the cam spins half. And what I noticed was this thing has the same bolts at 90 degrees, and these are at 45. So I was able to just turn this 45. And now I'm going to hook up my leakage tester over here on cylinder 8. And if I did it right, the crank won't spin. If I get it right at top dead center, let me make sure I got this thing snug in there, I think. Well, I think I do. Oh, maybe not. Nope, I didn't get it threaded in. So my mistake. Sorry, I thought I had it threaded in. So I'm threading it in now. And you can kind of see what I'm doing over there, threading that hose into that back cylinder on the passenger side. Now I got it snug, and it's sealing the O-ring at the bottom, which is important. I'm going to go tighten up that the O-ring seals. And here I go. So I'm going to go ahead and crank up the air. Hopefully the crankshaft doesn't turn. And so far it's looking pretty good. Wow, that's looking really good. All of a sudden, it's like it shut the valve. So I'm down at, again, at like 4%. That's amazing. So number 8 is at 4%. I'm going to let it off. And this time I'll let you watch the whole procedure. So the next cylinder is cylinder 4. The cylinder 4 is the second one here on the passenger side. So it's that one there. So far so good. Unfortunately, one cylinder can have a bent valve, and then we got to pull the heads. So hopefully we'll see how it goes here. So I'm putting this into number 4, and that's tight. And I'm connecting this. Actually, before I connect it, now I'm going to rotate the crank. I'm going to go clockwise to this next screw here. So I'm just rotating the crank. You can see how I'm rotating the crank with the torque wrench going like this. I'm coming around to right there, so that should be it. Hopefully that'll get us. So we're in 184. This is cylinder 4. And so 1 and 8 were perfect at 4%, like really good. Okay, so here comes number 4. There goes the air. So far looking good. Crank hasn't turned yet, which is good. Sometimes the air will push the piston down, and all of a sudden the crank will turn. So this one has more leakage than the other two, but when I get this to 100 psi, I'm all the way down at like, oh, sorry, you can't see it, can you? There it is. Sorry, didn't realize you couldn't see it. So I'm all the way down at like, I'm going to call that 12%. Let's see if I'm right. Yeah, about 12% leakage, which is really good because you can see the green. I'm at the bottom of the green. So that one had about 12% leakage. And this engine's been sitting a while, and so you have to assume that maybe, maybe it's a little bit of garbage just sitting there. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to go ahead and turn the crank here over to this screw here. That'll position it for 1843, right about there. And I already went ahead and put my hose into cylinder 3 right here. And I'm sorry that the thing is upside down, but I'm going to go ahead and crank this up, and hopefully the crank's not going to move again. So far we're looking good. Looks like we're going down there. Look, it's going all the way down. This is a very good sign. There's 100 psi, and I've got, looks like 8% leakage, which is really, really good. So I'm going to back this guy off. Actually, I'm just going to make sure. It's interesting, we are getting a little bit of leakage. I can hear a little air. A little bit of air coming out the throttle plate when I open it here. I can hear a little bit of air, but the leakage is way down around 10%, which is very, very good. So I'm really happy about that. I'll back this off. So there's a little tiny bit of leakage. One of the valves might have a little bit of carbon there or something, but it's so slight. So that's 8%. Let me switch it to the next one. Okay, here I go. I'm turning the crank over for the next cylinder. Right about there. So this should be number 6. So now I'm going to crank the air up, see what happens on number 6. 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. And this one's looking very good again. All the way down to 100 psi right there. And this is the best cylinder yet. I'm looking at about, I don't know, 3% leakage, which is just incredible. So we're doing really, really good. Backing this all off. Let me switch things. I'll pause you for a second. Okay, I'm going to crank it over for number 184365 for number 5. So here we go. And get number 5 right there. And I'll move this guy back here, over here so you can see. So I'm at the second to last cylinder in the back here on the driver's side. Here comes my air, hopefully. So far it's looking good. So we'll see, we got 2 more cylinders after this, and this one's incredible again. All the way down to 100 psi, and we're at like 4% leakage. That's awesome. Okay, so cylinder 7, I gotta crank this over and get the next mark lined up right about there. And then I'm back here, way back on the back cylinder back here. Now I'm gonna put this up here, sorry, it's kind of bouncy. So I got it on number 7, here we go. Cranking it up. Uh-oh, this one's not looking good. Okay, looks like we got a bent valve in cylinder 7. What a bummer. Okay. So you see that? So now, here we go, you guys. Here's cylinder 7. I got 100 psi, and I'm leaking about 90% of the air out. So I open the intake, and there's a little bit of air there. So the question is, where's that leaking? And this is the oil fill cap, and I'm not feeling anything there. So I'm assuming that this one's leaking, could be leaking outside another cylinder, or it could be leaking at the tailpipe. So I'm going to go check it out. Let me pause. Okay, so I went and moved the crank over, and I'm on the last cylinder, cylinder 2, and it's looking very, very good. So we'll crank this all the way up. And cylinder 2 is right about 5%. So that's really amazing still. All right, so one last thing I want to show you is that I've put all the spark plugs back in on that side and put 3 in here, and I've got number 7 with the air in it still. And when I put my hand here, there's definitely air coming out here, definitely coming out of the intake. I went back to the tailpipe, and there was no air leaking back there. Let me see if you can hear this. Maybe you can hear the change. Try one more time. Don't know if you can hear that, but it's definitely air leaking out of the intake. So the one last thing I'll do, not today, but we'll do is I'll pull the valve cover off and check the valve adjustment, and maybe smack the valves and see if I can get them to seat again. Because there's only one cylinder that's got a bunch of leakage. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pull the intake manifold off and pull that cylinder head off and then fix that cylinder. But the other side's in really great shape. So we'll get back to you on this. All right, thanks so much. Here we go. Let me stop this guy.